Quality, täislahendused hoolduses, kliendipõhine tootearendus ja lai tootevalik. Kvaliteet abrasiivid, tootekoolitused ning kiire tarne.
Hello everyone and welcome to the NB Quality Sim Racing or the EVIL GT Championship. This, of course, is round 6 from the Misano circuit. Not Silverstone. That was last time out, round 5. And of course, we are at the Misano circuit in Italy today. There you see the championship calendar. Of course, we've had 5 rounds previously in this championship, with Risto Capit winning 4 out of the 5. He has been pretty dominant so far this season, with Paul August Lana, the only driver who's been able to hold a candle to him in terms of performance, winning that round in Road America. Of course, after this, we're going to Indianapolis, Twin Ring Motegi, and Interlagos, but those are a little way off. In fact, the next round is still over a month away, so for now, just focus on what's going on the track, and it's going to be exciting. Misano, of course, in the heart of the Italian countryside, and always an exciting circuit for GT racing, very popular circuit for GT racing. GT World Challenge goes here, as do various other, I think GT Open goes here as well, and of course the Estonian Sim Racing GT Championship could not shy away from it. As you can hear, your usual commentators, I'm afraid, could not make it today, so you have a very special English commentary from me, Caitlin Penny, and hopefully I will be able to satisfy throughout the course of the day. Your cameras in your stream, of course, are as usual provided by Argo Teder. Anyway, let's take a look at whatever we've got coming up next. This is the driver standings. There we go. So Risto Capit, as I said before, currently leading the championship with 4 wins out of 5. Paul August Lana is second in the championship on 78 points. Only 1 victory to his name, but that is more than pretty much anyone else in the championship has done. Henry Sinek is third in the championship, or Henry Sinek, followed by Ila Jurgensen, and then Gert Radzep, Mario Hargis, Riot Kilk, who's qualified well for this round actually, Romu Okas, Kasper Korjus, and then Mario Wendler, the top 10 in this championship, with Korjus and Wendler currently absolutely level on points and going for those positions. Some big teams in here as well. Risto Capit, of course, RHG Esports, which I believe is Roman Grosjean's esports team, but I may be completely wrong in that. Let's take a look at, that is the grid there, you see. So Risto Capit is on pole position by half a second, so a massive pole position there from Risto, ahead of Paul August Lana, then Henry Sinek, Riot Kilk, Karl Marcus, Tamavesky, apologies if I got that wrong, Gert Radzep, Johannes Moore, Mario Hauges, Raimur Okas, and Ila Jurgensen. The top 10 on this grid. Quite a big grid today, as we always see in this championship. Mario Wendler is P11, followed by Aro Arela, La Uzmagi, Timo Radzik, Tunis Ligman, Alex Ivanov, Rainer Valling, Silva Pirmets, Sim Kalakma, and then Sten Ambus, P20. Sten Ambus, a name I recognise, but I don't know exactly where from. Marco Holtzman is P21, then it's Thomas Vabamay, Gabriel Veda, Sim Nur, Larry Leidner, Milas San, Tari Telling, Christian Olari Lepping, Sander Sassi, Tanel Kasisalu. That's the top 30, and then rounding up the grid, we've got Ivo Alango, Ermas Saluma, Gregorio Machadino, and then Argo Yeletsky, the 34 cars on this grid. I'm hearing that apparently some of them may not have made today's race, but anyway, you see the grid in front of you. 34 cars, of course, a full grid, and the timer has now begun. And of course, that doesn't mean that the race has started. In fact, even those lights going up there, the race is not yet properly underway, because we do have a formation lap to come. And then, of course, it's when the race director declares the race as starting that the race actually begins, which will be probably towards the end of this formation lap. 3 Corvettes on the front of the grid today. A very competitive car, which admittedly has been balanced since the start of the season. It's received some balance of performance upgrades with some extra weight added to make sure that it's not overpowered compared to the rest of the field. But still, obviously, those drivers running away with the qualifying session, especially Risto Capet. So obviously it's the drivers who are just that good. Best of the rest, of course, right? Kilk in the Aston Martin, the kind of fluorescent Aston Martin there, which will be easy to spot, and an Audi there on the third row of the grid as well. The Audi, when I started watching GT racing, was the most popular car. Of course, it was the LMS back then. And here is probably the least popular car on the grid, but a fan favourite, the Radical RXC GT3 of Silver Piermets. Now, I've actually seen these Radicals racing in person at Silverstone for the International GT Open. And even then, it was an outdated and quite unpopular car. There were only a couple in circulation back then. So to see a Radical RXC GT3 on the grid today is unexpected, but a welcome surprise, and I wish Silver Piermets the best in that car. So we're now 2 by 2 at the front of the field, as we have been for the majority of this lap, and we're getting towards the end of the lap here at Misano. And of course, when the race director declares that the race has started, they will put the pedal to the metal and off they will go for roughly 70 minutes of racing at Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli, which is the official name of this circuit. Into the very difficult Caro hairpin. It's a corner with a couple of right-handed apex leading into it, making it feel like a randomly tightening hairpin. And it's a very, very difficult braking zone to get right. Now up towards the final corner here, turn 16. And I believe we've been told that it is, no, we're not yet go. And you wait for the instruction as they cross the line. I'm expecting certainly to hear the engine notes rise, and I think that's what's happened. So away we go towards turn 1. And it's going to be Capet on the inside line. Round the outside is Paul Augustlana, but he's going to have to back off into turn 3. We've got an Aston Martin up into P3, so it's Riot Kilk third. And dropping down the order is the third place starter of Henry Sinnick. In fact, I don't know where Sinnick is. He's 34th, so Sinnick's dropped to the back. Something's happened there for Henry Sinnick, who started third on the grid. That is a shame there for the Corvette driver. And we're hearing that Argo Teder is going to find it later, so we might well see a replay of it. Here's Augustlana going for the lead of the race on Risto Capet, and needs to do it soon because we've seen that Risto is so fast here at this circuit. And if he doesn't get past him, there is a high chance that Risto Capet is going to extend his lead and just pull away into the distance. The one way that Augustlana can stop that from happening is to get past him early on in the race. A couple of yellow flags showing up around this circuit, but it looks as if everyone that we currently see is okay, although maybe some drivers dropping back earlier on. Of course, we saw that Henry Sinnick is one of them. There's the Radical going up into 13th place, so 3 places gained for Silver Piermets on this opening lap, and he spins, and he's going to bounce over the sausage curbs, and he's in the gravel. So Silver Piermets loses control on the opening lap of the race and drops to P18. Big shame for him, 5 places lost, and a lot of tyre life in that as well. His tyres are going to be in a very weird shape. The end of the opening lap, the 2 Artec Sim Racing Aston Martins of Ryan Kilk and Gert Radzep have made up a couple of positions and are going well. Further back, here's Sander Sassy side by side with one of the Corvettes, which gets the better of him. And here comes a Mclaren on the inside as well. So some battling going on down into turn 1 on lap 2 of this race. Sassy gets out in P24 behind who's Maggie, who is up into P23. Roman Cully there in P25. Immediately behind this bunch. Now Cully was actually disqualified from the qualifying session for doing too many laps. He thought it was a practice session, and as a result did too many laps, and more than he was allowed. Although was allowed to start this race anyway, because some drivers could not make the actual race. There's a driver in the pit lane at the end of this opening lap. Someone dropped to the back, and I'll see who that is when the order takes through again. It's the driver currently in P34, so maybe an incident for whoever that was, and it's Nayless Sound, who is in the pits in the Eval racing car in this Eval GT Championship. So 1 hour and 9 minutes of this race remaining. It's a long race by GT standards. Only one driver taking this entire race, of course. And we have a replay from the start coming up apparently, so we're going to see what happened to Henry Sinnick and how he dropped back from 3rd place on the grid to the back of the grid. So watch that Corvette. He's already dropped back behind one of the Aston Martins. And is he going to get mugged into turn 1? Yes, there's contact with a BMW, so he gets touched by a BMW from behind and then collected by a Corvette and is deposited in the grass. So Henry Sinnick from 3rd place dropped to P24, and there was another McLaren going around just ahead of him, the gold-coloured McLaren, who drops back to a similar point on the track. Anyway, back to the leaders. Risto Caput leading us around, followed by Paul Auguslana. And these are the top 2 cars, separated by half a second in the early stages of this race. They're pulling out a bit of a gap now from Riot Kilk. That's 2 seconds now between Auguslana and Kilk, P2 to P3. And of course, Kilk bringing his Artec Sim Racing teammate with him. Now, there's going to be a pit stop later on in this race, or at least we're expecting that there will be. The only way that they're not going to make a pit stop is if they can conserve enough fuel, because the pit stop isn't mandatory in this race, but it's pretty mandatory if you don't want to run out of fuel. Now, we know that the McLaren can theoretically do it, but you may need to fuel save. As for the other cars in this grid, it's a little less likely, and I think you would need to be driving at about 2 miles per hour the entire way through to make it stick. So it is certainly not viable, but we'll keep an eye on that. We're expecting some drivers to change tyres as well, although, as I said before, it is not mandatory as it would be in some series. There's no minimum pit stop time, there's no pit window. You can pit any time that you want to, providing that you get to the end of the race without running out of fuel. So we're about 7 minutes into this race now, about 3 laps in, and the leaders still right together, but pulling away from the Aston Martins of Kilk and Radzeb as the race continues. We're watching Raimo Urkas running away from P9 Ivanov, and chasing down Ila Jurgensen just ahead of him. This is around the pack. I think Jurgensen may have actually been involved in the opening lap incident with Henry Sinnick. I think he might have slightly collected the car ahead of him in all of that. I think it may have been Moore who was the car who got the worst of it, kind of striking the side of Sinnick's car. So hopefully Moore didn't get too much damage in that. Seems to be okay. Still running in 6th position. Pretty strong there. But as the race continues, things can develop and maybe get worse later on if you have been involved in an incident. Talking of incidents, Henry Sinnick back up past Sten Ambers, so up into P17, making progress from the P34, which is where he was after the first corner of this race. So 17 positions gained back already. That's half the grid that he has repassed now, showing just how quick Henry Sinnick is. I think Tamavesky is losing a couple of places up ahead. Oh, as Sinnick goes for a dive on Laurie Leidner, makes the move stick. That was very brave. Leidner going slightly wide on the outside line. Yeah, up in the top 10, it looks as if Tamavesky dropped behind Okas as we were quite looking. Look how rear happy that car of Henry Sinnick's car is. And look at the wheel, look at the steering wheel. It's hanging to one side, so he's got steering damage on that car, and somehow is still making up several places anyway. And I think Sten Ambers may have been off in that final sector because we had a brief yellow flag, and the number next to his name is showing up in... No, he's okay, he's okay. You still see him there in the plain white BMW. I'm not sure why his name's showing up differently to the other drivers. But there was a brief yellow flag in the final sector there. Meanwhile, all 34 of the starting drivers are still running in this race, despite the incidents in the early stages. And everyone's still relatively okay. Only one driver off the lead lap, and that's San, who came into the pits, of course. So he has a lot of ground to be made up, with just over an hour to do it in. 1 hour and 5 minutes to be precise. Anyway, here's Alex Ivanov in between Jurgensen and Okas. Argo is the Corvette who's running slightly wide there and under attack from Tamavesky. Sorry, what was that, Argo? Nothing, okay, my apologies. Just thought that Argo was probably that. Okay, anyway, the race continuing. Okas defending from Tamavesky and fending him off on that last time around. Still P9 in this race. It's that Corvette there that's flying, just following them through in the number 675, right about trying to get involved in this scrap. About a second back, of course. We often talk about the magical 1 second buffer in sim racing. That's very arbitrary, especially since these cars don't have DRS, so it's not as if 1 second gives you an advantage, but it gives the drivers a bit of a psychological boost. Looks a lot better to be in the 0 digits than the 1 digit gaps. Is Henry Sinnick now going to make another move on Tari Telling if he can? Up the inside of the Ferrari. Ooh, I think he's going to run wide there. Yeah, well, he went for it, and props to him for doing so, but making a little mistake midway through the corner. And running a little deep on the exit. He's going to have to do it again. But it's impressive that he's running this well, considering his steering is hanging noticeably to one side. Clearly some suspension or steering column damage to that Corvette. So up towards the turns 12, 13, 14 sequence, where the track just seems to keep going more and more right, and he's up the inside, goes for the dive. He likes that style of move, doesn't he? Henry Sinnick making a lot of dive bomb maneuvers today. Looked as if he may have come back at him there, up towards turn 15, but decided better off it because that is a way too fast corner to be going at it with your opponents into. Back up to the lead. Look at August Lanner. He is not letting Capit go away. Now Capit, of course, was half a second faster than anyone else on the grid in qualifying, and as a result, we all expected him to pull away at the start, but he is going steady in comparison to Paul August Lanner here. August Lanner almost looking like the faster car at this point in the race, and knowing that he needs to pull something out of the bag to beat Risto Capit on this occasion. Both of them have won at least one race this season, but it's Capit who's had the advantage for the majority of the time. Another brief yellow showed on in the first sector that last time around, but once again, I don't think it's someone in the top part of the order that's triggered that. Although Lepping is now off the lead lap, so maybe something happening there to the number 99 car. Risto Capit here, still not getting away from Paul Auguslana. Who's Maggie there getting past Ligman? I think Ligman may have had a brief off there, because again there was another yellow flag just as Ligman started dropping from P20 down the order. He's now down to P26, so something happening further down. And Wendler now losing places, lost about 3, lost another one. And Wendler is out, so we've lost, I'm afraid, the driver who started P11, Mario Wendler, from this race. Yes, indeed, he's dropped into the pit lane. Wendler, of course, a former Estonian kart champion, very successful in karting in Estonia. And I'm afraid not so successful in this race for some reason. So we'll see if we can pick that up later on, but for now, I'm afraid he is our first retirement from this race. But still, 33 drivers out there. I think I may have just seen a move in the top 10, maybe a slight change of position. Replay. We're going to get a replay now of what happened to Mario Wendler. So he was running P32, hadn't had a great race. He started P11, goes for a big spin, hits the sausage curbs, oh, and is struck by an Aston Martin, and rolls back into the pack. And that is very unlucky there. Retires on the spot, knows that it's, well, may have lost the engine, or may have just decided not to try to get it back to the pits with no rear wing. But yeah, that is a crash there for Mario Wendler. Meanwhile, that's... Oh, look at Tamavesky there in the Aston. He's just got past Remo Orcas. That's a change of position for P10, so a move has been pulled. And his next target is Ivanov, just out in front. Tamavesky has been up and down the order today. Started a bit higher than this. And then dropped back. Tamavesky started P5 in the order and then dropped back to P11 and is now back into P9 once again. So into the chicane. Turns 1 and 2. Alex Ivanov is the car in the Eval Mclaren just up ahead. It is a pretty evil looking McLaren actually. If you look at the way the headlights make the kind of face of the car look, it's intimidating. It's the kind of thing you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alleyway. But Eli Jurgensen currently has to put up with that being all over his mirrors. I think I saw a car facing the wrong way in the background there. It looks as if it was on the other part of the track, maybe turn 1. But you could just see it kind of over the barrier. Yeah, I think there was a car facing the wrong way. And judging by where that was on track, that would have been a car maybe around P25, P26 that went around. That's the trouble with having a grid with so many cars on it. It's difficult to keep up with everything that's going on at one point in time. And all of those drivers further down the order, they're all important. They're all having races of their own, and they've all paid to be here, but sometimes it's difficult to see what's going on down there when you're focusing on what's going on up in front. Let's give a shout out to some of the drivers further down then. Turnus Legman here, P23, in the Luna car, running just ahead of Thomas Vabame, sorry. The name kind of cuts off there on the screen. And Sander Sassi in the P25, number 10 McLaren for Valda Sim Racing. Very varied grid of GT3 cars here. Everything from Corvettes to BMWs, McLarens, Audis, Aston Martins, and of course that beautiful radical RXC GT3, which may well be my favourite car on the grid. I touched one of those cars once. It was at that weekend I was talking about earlier on, Silverstone. Not sure I was supposed to touch it, but I did in the paddock, and it felt how you imagine it to feel, very carbon fibery. Anyway, Alex Ivanov here, running just ahead of Marcus Tavami, who we know is quicker than this. Tamavesky, not Tavami, Tamavesky, thinking of a different driver, who we know is quicker than us and we know can make up positions. Difficult to do so though. You can overtake on Misano. It is a circuit that lends itself to overtaking opportunities. Now I'm afraid we've had another retirement and it's Nur, so we've lost, let me just look up his first name quickly, Sim Nur, who started P24 in one of the Corvettes, and he has become the second retirement from this race with 55.5 minutes remaining, so 2 out of 32 still remaining. No B-Final today, I'm afraid, so even though we did have a big grid of cars, as always in the Estonia sorry. Okay, and I'm just hearing that Nur's crash was very similar to the other crash that we've seen earlier. The one where the McLaren lost its rear wing, Wendler. So, probably just lost control and was struck by another car or something along those lines. Whatever the case, it's put him out of the race. Haven't seen these cars in a while. Look, the two Artec Sim Racing Aston Martins of Riot Kilk and Gerd Raudse. They've been very much running their own race. Too far ahead of Hargis to be under pressure, too far behind the leading battle to be of any pressure. And as a result, they've just been kind of running around amongst themselves. Raudse almost looking racy behind Kilk here. I wonder whether... See, if there were team orders, I wouldn't be surprised if they'd have swapped places by now, so I'm not sure if there are any at that team. But we shall see. If we see them swap before long, then we know why, because Kilk is... I'm very reluctant to say that he's holding up for Raudse, because we know how fast Kilk is, and he's not running third place for nothing. But Raudse, as I said, looking very racy at this point in time, and may have more pace than Kilk. So here we go towards the end of the lap. Kilk, of course, a GPWC specialist, has driven all sorts of Formula 1 style cars over the years and has done fairly well in that. Top 5 finishes in the Super League, if I remember correctly. Less so a GT racer, but as you can see here, still very quick, still sticking it to the other big guys in this league. Yes, you know, Capet and August Lana are getting away up in front, but Kilk still at the pointy end of the field. Now the leaders are actually separated by over a second for probably the first time in this race, so is Capet suddenly launching his charge to try to pull away from August Lana and get that gap up before the pit stops. Of course, the pit stages are a vulnerable time for the leader of the race. You've got to react to your opponent when they come into the pits, but not to such an extent that you overcompensate and end up accidentally handing them the clean air or trying to get the undercut or something like that. Meanwhile, Valling's dropped a couple of places. He's been dropping from P11 down to P18, so Valling's been for a spin, I think, there. And that's at turn 13, so he's been around at turn 13. And that's an accident black spot of the track so far. And that puts Henry Sinnick up into P11, so Sinnick on his recovery drive, still doing a very, very good job. And it also gives us an excuse to watch the... never mind, because we're going to see a replay. Yeah, just lost control on the entry, and he was lucky to avoid those sausage curbs. The sausage curbs can be pretty aggressive at that point on the track. I managed to kind of go either side of them. Went along... Oh, he hit the wall! Rainer Valling backed it into the barrier, and that is going to do no good at all to his rear right suspension. Scatters some cones as he rejoins the track and almost gets cleaned up by the plain white BMW of Sten Ambers coming through behind him. That would have been a bad one, goodness me. And that's why he dropped even more positions than he could have done, because he had to wait for all of those cars coming through. But it now gives us an excuse to watch the beautiful Radical RXC GT3 behind of Silver Parmetz, or Piermet, sorry, who has a little twitch mid-corner and just about gets away with it. There's a reason why that car's unpopular, I'm afraid, and that's because it's simply not as quick as some of the other GT3s out there. They do have balance of performance, of course. They're not as far apart as they would be if all of these cars were unlimited, but the RXC, I'm afraid, rather struggles for power, and it's actually rather difficult to control at times as well. But even so, if you want to be a crowd favourite, pick something slightly outlandish and unusual, like the Radical RXC. Here is Marco Holtzman. He is currently running in P16, being chased down by a Ferrari. Now, Argo, I know the audience can't hear you right now. I forgot to check this before the race starts. Where do points go down to? So how many drivers score points in this? 15, okay, so yeah, that's kind of what I expected. He's on the buffer of the point scoring positions there in P16, making that a very important scrap there that we've just been watching. Slightly less important is this fight for P24, though of course still a long way to go in this race, so still some points on offer maybe if things go wrong. Up ahead is Roman Cully, followed by Tunis Ligman, E21 and 22 in the order, and two identical BMWs, different in terms of liveries of course, but identical in terms of the way that the cars are made. And the only difference, and who's that off the road? Someone stopped at the side there. It looks as if it may have been a car that was a lap down, because I don't think Cully or Ligman gained a place in that. So someone has stopped, and there they are, and it's Saluma, there we go, sorry, Saluma. His name kind of cuts off, so I wasn't sure if there was more there, but anyway, Saluma in the McLaren is having some sort of an issue by the side of the road there, and it doesn't appear to have been an accident or anything, so I'm wondering if he's having maybe hardware issues or maybe software issues or something along those lines. Whatever the case, running through the grass, and will rejoin the race if he can, but if not, we may have had our third retirement. Emmett's in the pits meanwhile, in the Radical, so it may well be that the pit stages are not too far away. I expect the drivers will probably try to run a little way, as even up there takes a look at Jürgensen. I expect they'll try to run a little way into the race. I want to have filled up with as much fuel as possible at the start of the race, so they don't have to refuel as much in the pit stop. But maybe Pierman's going for a slightly alternate strategy, and around goes Jürgensen. So Jürgensen from P7 loses control in the very difficult turn 13, which has been the accident black spot of the race so far. He's dropped 3 positions, so up into 7th goes Ivanov, 8th is Tamavesky, and 9th is Overcast. And Jürgensen was very lucky not to be collected there, much as Wendler was earlier on. Yeah, very lucky still to be in the top 10 there. Tamavesky now looking very racy on the back of Ivanov. He gets a run actually, gets a good run out of turn 3. Doesn't go for a dive bomb maneuver, but that may end up being for the best. And I think later on in this lap, Ivanov is going to come under some serious pressure here from Marcus Tamavesky potentially. Now they're free from Jürgensen. There's extra incentive to get this move done. Oh, and a big twitch from Ivanov, and Tamavesky has a twitch almost in sympathy behind him there, but gets away with it enough that he still gained time on Alex Ivanov on the exit. Right, now we get to the really dangerous point on the track. Keep it under control, guys. Don't get carried away, don't lose your heads. Those sausage curbs are waiting to pounce. There's turn 12, turn 13, and then turn 14 is the hairpin, and Ivanov did touch the sausage curb on the outside, and Tamavesky almost ran into the back of that McLaren as they checked up in the braking zone, but he got away with it. Meanwhile, Saluma is now well and truly out of the race. He is confirmed as our 3rd DNF here. We have 31 cars still remaining. So just under 46 minutes to go. Still yet to reach the full-on pit window. We have had a couple of cars into the pits, but those have been cars that have been slightly off sequence or involved in incidents earlier on. You see the Radical there in the background. Looks as if he's involved in the fight for the top 10. Unfortunately not. He is just being slightly held up by this fight for the top 10, having just made a a stop for new tyres. There you see actually the pit stop graphic showing that everyone down to Piermetz has yet to make their stop. The only other driver who has been in is Lepping there in the 30, who is also a lap down, and Sound, who pitted at the end of the opening lap. I still don't entirely know why, but I presume that he was involved in some sort of an incident. Once again, here are the Aston Martins of Artec Sim Racing running 3rd and 4th, as they have been ever since the opening lap of this race. They didn't start in those positions, but they will be scored as having run in these positions the entire way through, providing they stay there. And these two cars have been very much working as a team, haven't been separated by any more than a second this entire way through. Henry Sinnick is in the top 10, look! Henry Sinnick has got past from Overcast, the two satellite racing cars. And Sinnick, despite the damage, is proving the Sinnick's wrong. Some kind of incident, I think? Okay, Ukas has made a mistake somewhere, apparently. And here's a replay of that, so we're about to see what happened to Romo Ukas. Who, it's turn 13 again, and it's those sausage curbs. Those are some very, very savage sausage curbs. And that is why he's now behind his teammate. He didn't want to be, he didn't give him the place voluntarily, but by bouncing over the sausages on the outside line, he loses out. All this talk of sausages is reminding me that I haven't had my dinner yet, but anyway, I'll have to have that once the race is finished. Look at the radical there of Piermetz getting held up by Jurgensen. Actually, almost took to the grass on the inside there, almost cut the corner. As he took a look at Jurgensen's Corvette. I guess that is the disadvantage of pitting early. You do tend to come out in traffic. Of course, there is also a risk that you might, if you pit late as well, so that's pretty irrelevant. We've now lost Virame. Someone's retired anyway. 30 cars remaining in this this race. Because someone just dropped out, yes. Tumas Vabame, sorry. There we go. Still getting used to some of the names that I don't recognize in this race. So one of the Return Sim Racing cars has retired. Starting from P22 on the grid. Once again, here are the Aston Martins, right, kicking up a little bit of grass on the outside. Getting away with it. Seems like you can really push the car pretty much everywhere but turn 13. Turn 13 is the only corner that's really bitten so far in this race. There is turn 13 that they've just been through that. Unlucky for some. But Kilken's rides up, getting away with it for now. Sorry, that wasn't turn 13. I got slightly lost on the track that time around. This is the infamous turn 13. And up the inside goes Radzeb. So Radzeb now up into 3rd place. The two Artec Sim Racing cars swap places. Kilk coming back at him. So obviously this isn't a strategic swap. This looks like a full-on fight for 3rd position here. So Radzeb made the move stick. Kilk is coming back to him on the exit. They're side by side down into turn 1, compromising each other as they go. Just make sure that Hargis doesn't catch them in the process. Kilk hanging on around the outside line. He's still there for turn 2. He's still there. Doesn't force his teammate over the curb. It's chivalrous stuff here for 3rd place. Oh no, it's not. They touch, and they almost go off. That would have been horrible stuff there for the Aston Martins. And Hargis has now caught them. Look at this. It may well be 3 for 3rd before long. 40 minutes now left in the race. Radzeb comes back at him. He'll be on the outside line. They swap once, they swapped again. Hargis flashes his lights. Radzeb goes for the dive. He goes off. And he's going to lose 2 places if he's not careful. The BMW is there. Kilk going back through on the outside. So Kilk is P3, Radzep still P4, Hargis still P5. And on the exit, it's the same. Now down the straight, towards the most difficult part of the course. Can Radzep go for another one? I expect so, because of course he was showing himself to be quicker than Kilk before. So I don't see any reason why that would be the battle over for now, especially now they've got Hargis on their tail in the Adesane Road Sport car. Mario Hargis showing the Arctic Sim Racing cars that he means business here. Out of the final turn towards another lap of the race. Turn 1 once again. The two bright green and yellow, or greeny yellow I suppose, Aston Martins. It's almost grello like the Porsche that raced at the Nürburgring. Not quite. Meanwhile, Moore is in the pits. He's been in from P7. And a pit stop now could really spice up this fight between Kilk and Radzep. I wonder who has priority out of the two. If they both want to pit on the same lap, who gets it? They must be in contact surely, because otherwise there's a risk of stacking the two cars. Walker's in, Ambus is in, Holtzman is in. So yes, the pit stages I expect. The pit window is well and truly open now. So we get another yellow flag in Sector 1, so hopefully everything is okay down there. But what a scrap we had there from Kilk and Radzep. Calm down a little bit for the time being, but we still have plenty of time left in this race, where things could kick off once again. It's great to see a team rivalry where there's not any team orders actually. We're so used in sim racing to seeing cars, or seeing drivers who have been told, don't fight your teammate, you know, if they get ahead, they're ahead. And talking of being ahead, Moore got through past Tony's Ligman there. And loses out on the exit. Ligman back through on the outside. Just to back out of that. Sorry, what was that, Argo? Yes, Hargis in. So Hargis in from P5. He was following Kilk and Radzep, but getting himself some clean air now. Now there's two sides to this coin. Now on one side, you've got the fact that he's going to be heavier, so potentially slower. And on the other hand, you've got the fact that he will potentially have new tyres. He'll have clean air if he gets out in a good place. And he's no longer involved in that fight, so can he undercut the Aston Martins in this process? We'll keep an eye on that one. It's an exciting development in this race. He comes out P14, and it looks as if he's got some clean air because he's got 4.5 seconds to Casasalu, who's the car up ahead of him, so that seems to have worked pretty well there for Mario Hargis. That's why he would have won it. Kalakma also came into the pits that last time around. We're well and truly into the pit window, a cycle, and it's going to cycle through as soon as you see Kilk and Radzep coming in as well. Meanwhile, the leaders are separated by 3 seconds for the first time in a long time. Well, the first time in this race, actually. The gap has been getting away, and that was a bit of a twitch there from Mclaren mid-corner. And he's now got a little bit of traffic. There's a McLaren just up ahead of him. Traffic is going to be a factor in this field, in this race, because it's a slightly spread out field. Tamaveyski's in the pits, along with Overcast. So some of the drivers at the sharp end of the field making their stops. Here are the Astons again. Neither of them came in last time around. Radzep's going for it, look. Oh, well, he took a look on the inside, and now he does go for it because Kilk leaves the door wide open, and they touch! The teammates touch! And Radzep is in the wall! Radzep has bounced off the Armco barrier. And that is the worst thing that can happen when you fight with your teammates on track. It's the cardinal sin of motor racing to come together with the car that sits closest to you in the garage. That is awful stuff there for Gert Raudsep. And whoever runs the Arctic Sim Racing car is going to be pretty seething right now. Goodness me. Well, surely one of them's going to have to pit now to get out of the... and Capit's in the pits, sorry. So Capit in the pits from the lead. That means that Paul August Lana leads this race for the first time. Capit will get his car going once again. 80 km/h pit lane speed limit at this circuit, which is about the standard for a race circuit like this. And neither Kilco or Raudsep do come in, so Raudsep obviously not picking up too much damage and staying out. But that does also mean that there's an increased chance here of Hargis jumping the Aston Martins, since they've been beating each other up on the circuit. And look at Henry Sinnick go. Look at this. He's going to come out ahead of Capit here. And yes, he's yet to make his pit stop, but even so, seeing him in the top 5 in any... Look at that! He's sliding it! And he saves it, but Sinnick has been absolutely destroying those rear tyres pretty much all the way through this race. Every time we ride on board with him, he's kicking the tail out. It's just the way he drives that's going to be made worse by the damage. But look at him go. With a driving style like that and with damage like that, I'd have expected to have seen him have another incident by now, but somehow he's not just keeping it in the right direction, he's making up places. It's like rallying, look at that! Okie dokie. Into one of the double right-handers, which defines the Misano circuit. Very difficult one. I was actually saying to Argo before the race started, it's not one of my favourite tracks, Misano. As a driver, I find it irritating. And to be honest, in real life, it doesn't provide that much exciting racing. Quite a popular one for GT racing because it has the right kind of facilities for it, but not one of my favourites in terms of, well, as far as racetracks go. But in sim racing, of course, sim racing can make any circuit exciting. As Sinnick now dives into the pit lane as we're watching him, follows a lapped McLaren into the pits there. And sorry, that's not a lapped McLaren, that's Ivanov. So Alex Ivanov, who was running just ahead of him, is also in the pits now. Capit goes through, as is to be expected. So the drivers we're waiting for now are August Lana, Raudsep and Jurgensen, and when they come in we will have a relatively straightforward, relatively effective order up the front of the field, and it will show us what to expect from the remainder of this race. A lot of drivers in the lower part of the top 10 and the top 15, look at that. Pit counters going on for Leidner, Big Man, Sinnick, Telling, Ivanov, Goose Maggie. A lot of drivers in the pits right now. And August Lana pits from the lead, so Paul August Lana bouncing the car out, taking it very fast into the entry. Slows his car down and will take his pit service. And I expect that Risto Capit will retake the lead of the race. Here is Risto as we watch him in the R8G esports car. A couple of seconds behind Eli Jurgensen, but that's not who he's racing at this point in time. He will be focusing on the pit time. Paul August Lana passes the Radical, who gets out of the way with the blue flags. Jurgensen won't get blue flags, so he will be a little bit more of a trouble if Capit catches up to him before Jurgensen's pit stop. But we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. Paul August Lana exits the pit lane and the gap has extended. Risto Capit is going to lead by a ever-increasing margin now. That is a big gap, actually. That is much bigger than it was before. Now, it may well be that August Lana took tyres, so took new tyres, and Capit didn't. But to very hard to tell when it comes to this type of racing. We don't really get updates on tyres that regularly. I roll now into the pits as well. But yeah, as I was saying, it's difficult to tell whether that is actually the case. But if it is, that would explain a lot, because the gap between Capit and August Lanner is now about 7 seconds, which is pretty sizable. Capit there also passing Jurgensen as we speak. Raudsep's nearly catching up to Kilk again, 1.5 seconds in it, and oh no, I think we should say to that one, we don't want those two cars anywhere near each other, or maybe we do, because as spectators it makes it very exciting. Kilk comes in, Raudsep's going to have to stay out for another lap, and Riot slows it down, so Raudsep now will lead the race temporarily. He'll be our 4th leader. 4th official leader, of course. To be an official leader, you just have to complete a lap in the lead. Realistically, though, we've only had one leader this entire race, and that's Risto Capit. Now we're looking at Romu Ukas on the back of Tamavesky. This is a fight that's been going on for pretty much this entire race now. The battle in the lower part of the top 10. And what's happening to Romu Ukas? He's giving way to Henry Sinnock. So Sinnock now does go back through into P9. Actually, why was Sinnock behind Ukas there? Because last time I looked, he was ahead of him. Maybe just swapping place in the pit strategy somehow, as Kilk exits his pit box. Yeah, Ukas there gave the place back at a... well, yes, there may have been some damage repairs for Sinnock there, actually. That's a good point there, thank you, Argo. Anyway, yeah, so Kilk exits the box now. That was a slightly awkward time for Ukas to give the place up to Sinnock, though. Because he is now under pressure from Sten Ambus, which he wouldn't have been otherwise. But anyway, might be worth it from a team strategy point of view. No offense to Romu Ukas, although Sinnock has proven himself today to be the faster driver of the two, and therefore is the bigger hope for points in that satellite racing team. Here he is on the back of Tamavesky. Now there is still some steering damage to Sinnock's car. May still have repaired some of it. Oh, he's up the inside, that's brave, that's very brave. Tamavesky sees him coming. And they're still side by side on the exit. There's a right-hander coming up now. It's a double right-hander, so Sinnock's going to run wide. Did well to keep it off the sausages. Stays P9. Raudsep's now in the pit, so Capit once again leads this race, as he did earlier on, and as he realistically has been doing this entire time. Meaning the only driver in that top 10 now yet to stop is Jurgensen in P2. Wide goes Tamavesky. Sinnock cuts the corner slightly. Needs to make sure he doesn't do that too many times. And here is Raudsep, who is... Sorry, that's Kilk, and he's ahead of Raudsep, as we expected, because that's the order they came in with. And the gap's about 4.5 seconds. That's about 3 seconds more than it was before. Overall, of course, the gap is now 5.6 seconds for the lead of the race, and we can confirm that Sinnock is ahead of Tamavesky, so that's happened just off screen, although I'm not surprised because it looked as if he was lining up a move right before we cut away. Here is Marco Holtzman on the back of La Guzmagi, G16. Possible points on the horizon for either of these two cars if things happen. Interesting to see DRS active on the graphic to the bottom right of the screen, because there is very much not DRS on these cars. That's just a standard thing with that graphic, I presume. Anyway, I get a little nervous every time I see yellow flags coming on the screen. And actually, was that a rear wing? I think I saw some debris on the outside of the course there. I think someone is probably going around without a rear wing on their car right now. Unless I was just seeing things there. And that's going to make whoever's car that is very difficult to control until they come back into the pit lane. Hope it wasn't any of our leaders. Sound is in the pits. That's his second stop, although I was expecting that because, of course, he pitted at the end of the opening lap of the race, and you realistically can't go full race minus 1 lap without making another stop. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, on to another lap. This is, well, I can't see how many laps into the race we are, but that's okay, because we have 24.5 minutes to go in this race, and that is what matters. When the timer ticks to 0, it will be the final lap, and then of course the next time the leader comes through, that will end the race. I'm sure that if you're watching this stream, you're probably aware of how timed races work. Ooh. Oh, contact there, slight touch between, that was Piermetz and Sassi, I think, in the McLaren. Piermetz losing out to, actually that's Hargis' BMW, so Hargis there running P4. Oh no, and there's they touch with Sassi. Hargis there held up and flashing his lights. No, I think there was contact there. And they just about get away with it, but that was a little brave there from Sassi, a little over exuberant, I think, to try to stick it to Hargis. Or is that Johannes Moore? It's one of the two I've seen cars. It's Hargis, okay, sorry. Yes, it was Mario Hargis there, and he is going to lose maybe 2 or 3 seconds in all of that, getting held up by those battling back markers. Maybe Sassi didn't know that there was a leader coming through, but he should have had his blue flags on. Anyway, I'll leave that up to whoever's in charge of decisions like that, stewarding decisions. There looked to be some more damage on the inside line there. I think I saw some debris flying on the apex. May have been just a braking board or something, but because I don't think it looked like a rear wing. There was something on the inside though. Anyway, here's Alo Arela chasing down Sim Kalakma. So the gap for the lead overall, 3.5 seconds, so it stayed roughly the same in the pit stages. Kanda has a little bit of traffic on ahead of him. One of the BMWs running further down the order. Might be Roman Cully there. Having a disappointing day, of course, after technically failing to qualify from this race. It is indeed Cully. Was allowed to start, considering some drivers pulled out, meaning that we had 34 cars starting with Romu's admittance, but had to start from the very back of the grid. Yes, good point actually. Argo Teder there just pointing out to me that Hargis and Moore, so the other same cars, have both jumped the Aston Martins of Kilk and Radser. So somehow in the pit stages, one team has passed the other, but those BMWs were a little way behind the Astons before actually, so I'm not entirely sure how that's worked. It may of course be that Kilk and Radser took tyres and the BMWs didn't, or maybe there were just mistakes or traffic for the Artec cars. We did of course see that spin for Radser, and Kilk got a little held up in all of that as well. So maybe that was just enough to put the other same BMWs ahead, but anyway. Well, here we are anyway, watching Kilk chasing down Moore. Apologies that I didn't notice that they'd swapped before actually, but they have indeed. I think I was busy watching Jurgensen to see when Jurgensen comes into the pits. He's still out there. Obviously starts on a full tank of fuel and is going as far as he can. Now Jurgensen apparently has done the full race without pitting before, so maybe he's doing the same thing here. although he is in a rather beefy Corvette, so it will be a difficult one to pull off. And Kilk now to the outside. Oh, and a lag spike for Moore, and Moore drops behind Kilk in the process. So Kilk went for the move, and then didn't even need to complete it. It was completed for him. So Johannes Moore drops to P6, and that's a shame there. That's got to be gutting, because yes, it only cost him one position, but it's a position that he was well and truly capable of holding, at least for the time being. And it kind of denies us of a little battle for the time being as well. Anyway, let's see if rFactor can catch more, and if so, how quickly. Capit's still yet to pass Cully there. Still yet to put him a lap down. Cully, the last driver on the lead lap in, I think, P21. Not anymore. Why did Cully pit? Oh, okay, so there's a different... yes, okay, so that's a different wheel movement ahead. No, that is Cully. And I believe that's because we were watching Paul August Lana. Yeah. Yeah, that confused me, my apologies. Sorry, it was Paul August Lana before, and my brain was still in Capit mode. So that was what was going on. I think... Capit has a different gear millimeter lap just ahead of them, but there we go. Relatively straightforward for Paul August Lana. Gained a little bit of time on Capit there. Tell you what, the race isn't completely over between Capit and Lana. It's going to be difficult for Lana to bring this back, because it's 3 seconds, but 3 seconds, 18 minutes, I mean, that's just the kind of gap that you gain if Capit gets unlucky in traffic or something like that. So, it's not over yet. And we know that Lana is quick, maybe just as quick as... and now we've got a penalty for Overcast. Could it be to do with some sort of pit stop infringement? Maybe probably track limits, apparently. Okay, and also... oh, and Paul August Lana has a penalty. Now, is that a drive-through penalty or something along those lines? Whatever the case... okay, so it's a drive-through. I'm being told it's a drive-through, and I presume that's also for track limits. So Paul August Lana being slapped by the live stewards. Track limits in turn 13, apparently. So Paul August Lana, for cutting the track and gaining advantage too many times, is going to be slapped with a drive-through penalty, which will put him potentially behind Jurgensen at this point. Maybe even behind the BMWs and Aston Martins. We'll keep an eye on that. I think he'll be okay from some of them. I think he'll probably come up potentially fourth behind Hargis, but it really does depend on what happens before then, on when he actually serves his pit stop. Here's Moore and rFactor, P6 and P7, dropping back a little from Riot Kilk at this point in time. But that is dramatic in terms of the race. Lana was catching Capit, and now it's not even going to matter. Capit is going to have about a 19-second lead by the time that Lana makes the stick. Overcast is in the pits now, and that is for his drive-through penalty. So he came in P10, and he's going to come out in P12 maybe. Where's Ivanov? Ivanov's going to be coming through right behind him. So Overcast comes out in P11. Actually has a little bit more of a gap to Ivanov than I thought. Look how close rFactor is to Moore now. Right on his tail. I've got to say, I never like seeing races decided by penalties, but it is good that the live stewards are alert and dishing out penalties during the race rather than after it, because sometimes you get races. Sometimes you get races. Oh, sorry. So that's not being applied by stewards. That's an in-race penalty that's being applied, and you can't really argue with that. The system is very straightforward. If you cut too many times, I think you get 2 warnings, and once you use up your 2 warnings, and you cut a 3rd time, it gives you an instant drive-through. So, Paul August Lana, you can't really argue with that. But yeah, as I was saying, it's good that it's been applied in race rather than after it, because I mean, No one wants to see a race determined after the mission results. And it's still out on track there for the time being. I believe rFactor 2 gives you 5 laps in order to serve your penalty, rather than the 3 laps you're normally given in real life motorsports, so has a little bit of time in order to serve it. Look at Radsev gaining and gaining on more here. Takes a look to the inside. Does he leave his braking later? Backs out of it, maybe just trying to force more into a mistake. Forced him to leave his braking later, leave the door open, something along those lines. But it's steady. Out towards the end of this particular lap. Ooh, defensive goes more. He sees the move coming. Lerner's in the pits meanwhile. Lerner comes in for his penalty. So we'll keep an eye on that and see where he comes out as we continue to watch the fight between Moore and Radsev. Jurgensen may well claim P2 here. And if he can keep this running, it looks as if he is going for the full race without stopping. And if he can keep this running, that would be a very impressive result. But look, August Lerner has come out still in P2. So August Lerner had enough of a gap not to lose out in the process. And he hasn't lost that much time to cap it, my goodness. Only 7 seconds back. Yeah, the drive-through was much quicker than I was expecting. Radsev, whoa, going very offensive on the rear of Johannes Moore's car there. Went one way, then the other. Attacks on the exit of turn 3. This pit lane must be so short here. I guess you do have the advantage of cutting the final corner if you come into the pits. And of course the pit entry is very fast. But, I mean, then you've got to go down the whole length of the pit straight at 80 kilometers per hour. Or is it 80 miles per hour? Maybe I heard that wrong. Anyway. Up the inside Radsev. Once again, doesn't risk leaving his braking later into that, because you need to get yourself alongside your opponent to go for a move like that. He's just showing himself to the mirrors, the rearview mirrors of Johannes Moore's car, trying to unsettle him, trying to force him to look behind him rather than ahead. Not focus on his lines. Sometimes that can make a driver make a mistake. Moore P6, Radsev P7. Yellows in sector 3, and that's because there was a car facing backwards there, and it's a almost looked like a Porsche, but I don't think I've seen any Porsches in this race. Who was that who put it there? Anyway, someone went around, but anyway, 19 cars still on the lead lap here. May have been Kalakma. Okay, we do have a Porsche in this race, actually. It's Machadino, so I presume that that's who I just saw having a spin there. Oh, and very defensive from Moore once again. Radsev was going to take a look to the inside there. Moore covered it off just in time, and Radsev actually touched the sausage curb on the exit there. This is an aggressive fight here for P6, and as we're getting into the dying stages of this race, I'm not really surprised, because he won't have that many more opportunities to pull this manoeuvre. He'll be disappointed too, because without that spin, without that incident with his teammate earlier on, I expect he would have come out ahead of Moore after the pit stages. And yes, I'm being told that it was Machadino who had a spin last time around. I knew it was a Porsche. Shouldn't have doubted myself for that, but it's just that I haven't seen any Porsches in the race so far. Also, shame for the Radical. The Radical of PMX has been in once again to the pits, so that's his second stop. Something obviously not going right for the Radical GT3 today. A 2-stop strategy in a race that is theoretically possible with 0 stops. So, 10.5 minutes now remaining in this race. It's been a long and exciting one, and Radsev is looking very racy on the back of Johannes Moore's car. All-wheel drifting it out to the final corner. Use the curb to his advantage to get the car into that position. where he could accelerate and get the maximum out of the torque on the exit. 18 cars on the lead lap because Holtzman's now a lap down. It may well end up being that if you're on the lead lap, you score points at this rate. But it doesn't really matter what lap you finish on. It's the position that really makes the difference. It shows you just how dominant Captain August Lana have been. Oh, and a spin, and Jurgensen's off! Jurgensen's backwards in the gravel from 3rd place in the race, and Hargis is up into the podium. So Jurgensen, who's driven this whole race without stopping, was under pressure from the BMW, and he's now down into P5. Possibly just old tyres going off and putting him down the order. He's got a little bit of a gap to Moore and Rautzep, who are still fighting over P6. So he may still be good for a top 5, but he could have scored a podium otherwise, so that is still a bit of a shame there. I was going to say, it's shown how dominant Capit and August Lana have been in this race so far, that Capit is 26 seconds ahead of everyone else in this race, except for August Lana, of course. And August Lana would be right with Capit right now if he hadn't scored that penalty. He was catching him. And I think that probably does show that August Lana went for tyres when Capit didn't, because he was catching at such a rate. Oh, and up the inside goes Rautzep, and that's going to go wrong! Oh, wow, he bailed out just in time there. Bailed out just in time to clip the inside of the corner rather than pile into the back of Moore's car. You can see that one coming from a mile off, and really good driving from Rautzep to avoid an incident there. He's going to have to get back into the rhythm and try again. McLaren and Ferrari battle going on back here. Two different types of McLaren in this scrap. You've got the older 670 and the newer 720, with the 670 of course ahead this time. 720 has an improved centre of mass, slightly lower centre of mass than the older car, and as a result slightly better handling. Not much difference apart from that, of course, because GT3s are so balanced in terms of their balance of performance. And the Ferrari, of course, is one of the newest cars on the grid. It's 2020 spec. And up the inside, big dive there from Telling. And Telling going very wide. And I'm telling you, that's not going to work. Drops back to P16, so at least he went for it. Sorry, I'm getting in the wrong way round. That was Maggie going for it on Telling. It's kind of confusing me that on the graphic on the bottom right, the Atari Telling Ferrari looks very yellow, and then from the front it looks very blue. But I guess that's just how the livery is, how it changes from the side to the front profile. But yeah, it was Goose Maggie who made the mistake. Oh, they changed the livery. Ah, that's what's confusing me. How dare they? Anyway, not long left in this race whatsoever. 6.5 minutes to go, and here is the fight between Moore and Rautzep, P6 and P7. Down into the hairpin, goes to the outside. He's been to the inside quite a lot, doing something different this time around. You've got to get creative in a fight like this. If you've tried everything, try something new. I know that doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. Switch back on the exit, that looked promising, but Moore covers it off. Absolutely parked his car on the exit there. Rautzep's fastest on the entry. August Lana's now just 4 seconds behind Capit, so Capit I think's been held up a little in traffic there. Yeah, August Lana closed by 3 seconds on Capit there. I tell you what, if August Lana hadn't made that pit stop, I personally think he might even be leading this race by now, but, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Another lap for Moore and Rautzep. It shows you just how well Moore has been defending, that he's still ahead of Rautzep after all of these tries, all of these attacks. The yellow flag, we'll keep an eye out for that. no one on the lead lap is dropping back right now. Not that I can see. Oh wait, never mind, it's Overcast. So Overcast from P12 appears to be out of the race. And that's one of the worst feelings, because he's been riding for over an hour now. And to get this far into a race and then DNF while you're in the points has got to hurt. Primary Overcast dropping back. And that means we now have 29 cars still in this race, unless I'm very much mistaken. Yes, indeed. Kommenteerivad is 2 laps behind anyone else in P30, so he may have had some issues earlier on. And is that Kommenteerivad that we just passed there, actually, with Moore and Radset? Oh, and I'm just hearing actually that Capit, when he lost the 3 seconds, it's because he had a kind of half spin just a few minutes ago. A 360! Let's take a look at this. We're about to see a full 360 spin from the race leader who kept the lead. Oh, he's clipped the sausage curb. He's gone over the curbs and into the gravel and somehow still kept the lead of the race. That is amazing stuff from Bristow Capit, gathering it up. He so nearly threw the race away with that one. And if he wins the race after that, oh my goodness, well that's got to have got his heart beating. I mean, his heart would have already been beating, but faster. Radset still trying to get past Moore, still trying to get the elusive switchback, but Moore is parking his car on the apex exactly how he needs to. But that is why Augustin is now only 4 seconds behind Capit. If Capit makes another mistake or gets held up in traffic, it's going to be close again. Talking of close, oh, and a touch, and they're going to run wide, and Moore does run wide now. Radset's on the inside, but I think he's going to have to give that back because he's punted Moore wide. But it looks as if Radset for the time being, and he does give it back. Oh, and they punt again. They've come together again. So Moore does get back up into 6th. But gives him a door slam on the way through, saying, "Don't you do that again." Goodness. Wow, rough stuff here for P6 in the closing stages of this race. 2.5 minutes remaining. I presume the next lap may well end up being the last lap, depending on where Capit is on the lap right now. Looks as if he's just coming through towards that's down into the middle part of the circuit there, so yeah, I think the next lap's going to be the last one. He's being held up by the Radical, a little bit held up anyway, providing Pirmets gets out of the way before too long. I don't think he's going to be in trouble for this. Warren Radset once again close on the exit of turn 3 here. Moore defending. Radset to the outside. Switchback potential. But Moore knows how to cover those off. And he knows that's what Radset's going for, because Radset's been going for the same manoeuvres this whole time. Except down into this next corner. Radset's gone to the inside and the outside here. Neither's worked for him. Last lap it almost did. This lap it's a lot cleaner. Moore goes slightly wider. He's left the door open. They're side by side on the exit. Radset's going to get the long way round though. Into the double right-hander. And now he leaves the door open and Moore pops straight back through. Gets a really good run, but Moore knows how to cover him off. Goes for his move of defense. He's on the grass. Look at Radset. Meanwhile, Capit's getting really held up, but keep watching Moore and Radset here. So we have yellows in sector 2. Hopefully that's not anywhere near any of these guys. This is a fantastic scrap. As they head now onto what may be the last lap of the race. What probably will be the last lap of the race, judging by where Capit is on his lap. It's going to be close, but I think the timer is going to tick to 0 before Capit gets back through. I think Moore has what it takes to hold off Radset here. He's just got one more lap to do it. Radset's going to be off the road there! He found the sausage cups again! Wow! Using all of the track and more, but too much of it. And on this final lap of the race, the timer has now ticked to 0. So we're just waiting for Capet to complete his final lap of the circuit. There's where he spun a few laps ago, but he got away with it with a fantastic recovery. And only losing 3 seconds, he's going to come home to win this race. It's win 5 out of 6 here for Risto Capet, and a well-deserved one at that. He flashes the lights, and he is happy. There we go. Breathe a sigh of relief. 70 plus minutes of racing are over. Paul Augustlana is P2. He's done a great job too, and probably would have won this race if he hadn't made that one, or those few simple mistakes over the track limits at P13. Here's Mario Hargis now. He claims P3 after a fantastic fight with the Aston Martins of Kilk and Radsup. There is Kilk. Jurgensen's going to keep P5 after not making a pit stop, and in a gas-guzzling American Corvette. That's a pretty good job, actually. Johannes Moore will be P6, just about ahead of Radsup, and what a scrap they had! It wasn't the cleanest scrap I've ever seen, but my goodness was it exciting. Radsup's P7. Cynic is P8 despite dropping to the back of the grid on the first corner. Good drive from Cynic, especially considering the damage he picked up. Tamavesky is going to be P9 there, and then Sten Ambus will be P10 in the bright white Evo BMW. P11 will be Alex Ivanov, just ahead of Valing there. Rainer Valing. Then Lara Uusmägi in the McLaren will fend off Terry Telling. And Larry Leidner will complete the points paying positions in P15, and everyone else behind is off the lead lap. So it did end up being the top 15 finishing on the lead lap there. And just out of the points were Tonis Ligman, Tanel Kasasali, Marco Holtzman, Alo Arela, Sim Kalakma, Rimu Kuli, Sander Sassi, Silva Piamets, Gabriel Veda, Christian Alari, Lepping, Nelis San, Gregorio Machadinho, Ivor Alango, Kamu Poravaja, and then the retirements were Rimu Ukas, Thomas Babame, Omas Saluma, Sim Nur, and Mario Wendler. 34 cars started, 29 saw the flag, 15 of those were on the lead lap, and the winner was Risto Capet, who crashes into the back of another car in the pit lane. That's the lot. Don't go anywhere, we may still have some interviews with the top 3. Those are coming up in just a few minutes time, but I hope you enjoyed that race, whether you're new to this league or whether you've watched it 1,000 times. This was a pretty good race, actually. I was pretty pleased with what I saw. Okie dokie, Argo, if you could move in Risto Capet. There we go. Risto Capet is our race winner today. Risto, are you there?
Yes, good evening.
So it was a tense one. It wasn't completely straightforward, but you've come home with your 5th victory of 6 races. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I thought according to qualifying I have a half a second per lap advantage, but no, I was maybe not in ideal form, and Paul really upped his game. And yeah, for the beginning of the race, the first half, it was, I mean, we had nothing between each other. So yeah, and then the pit stop showed that he wasn't carrying too much more fuel, and I managed to undercut him a bit. And but he was coming back with fresher tires and probably would have caught me, and he had a bit more top speed, so it would have been an interesting race. But yeah, I guess he had a drive through for cut tracks, and yeah, I played very safe with the cut tracks to not get any. Then I did get a small mistake at the end, but yeah, just barely enough to stay ahead. So yeah, quite tense, more tense and closer than I thought.
I tell you what, your small mistake was pretty spectacular. You did a full 360 into the gravel trap. How did you only lose 3 seconds from that, and what did your heart feel like?
I'll be honest, I was lucky because I had the same spin in practice, and half of the times the curbs would kill your car, and other half the
Yes.
time you would go into gravel, and I just stayed on the asphalt. And yeah, I was lucky. Nothing else to it. I was, yeah, during the slide, I knew that I might have messed up, but yeah, thankfully, yeah, since it was the end of the stint, I wasn't going in full steam, so the speed wasn't that great, and then it's just sort of managed to save it. But yeah, it was closer than I wanted.
Now, Lana, of course, was a little way behind you in qualifying, although much closer to you in the race. Why do you think that is?
Well, I do know that we have a slightly different setup. I mean, I had a very high rake, high downforce setup that works a bit better in qualifying, but the difference is not big. I mean, it was just, yeah, he was fully committed and was driving mistake free, it seemed. And yeah, my beginning of the race was not ideal. And yeah, but at some point I got into the groove and then I started pulling some gap. But yeah, I guess it's just racecraft and commitment and all that. Maybe he messed up his qualifying lap and was actually faster. So he can tell you more about that. But yeah, I mean, he has been getting faster all the time. Some of the guys in Estonia and Eval, they are really, really decent players in the international level as well. So I'm really proud of that. And I'm happy that level here in Eval GT is actually really high. So yeah, nothing to it. He's just good.
Indeed. Well, you're running away with this championship and you've won that race, so congratulations and good luck in your future rounds.
Thanks.
Okie dokie. So that was Risto Capit. Thank you for the interview. Let's bring in Paul August Lana now from P2 if you can, Argo. There we go. Paul, do you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. So, Paul, you were very, very fast, one of the fastest drivers on track, possibly the fastest at different points in the race. But at the end, it just wasn't to be. How do you feel?
To be honest, I feel really, really great. I wasn't expecting that I'm so fast. In practice, I couldn't make over 10 laps in a row. I just spun and crashed.
Wow. Well, you ended up pulling it off in the race pretty well. You were really sticking with Capit in the early stages, despite the deficit in qualifying. Why do you think that was? What changed?
I don't really know. I've always been faster in the race than I'm in qualifying.
Fair enough. Of course, we can't really speak to you about your race without talking about that penalty, of course. What exactly was that for track limits? What happened?
Yeah, it was track limits. I just little bit went too sideways and got track.
It's a big shame, and it ended up potentially costing you the race. Do you think you would have won it otherwise?
Yeah, I think it would have been really, really close and really fun.
Would have been a good fight, and of course, Capit made a mistake towards the end of the lap. Next up, of course, is Indianapolis in just under a month's time. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, sure. Now I know that I can be a lot faster than I've always been, and I think I can pull it off next race.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on your P2, and good luck in your future rounds.
Thanks.
So that was Paul August Lana. Thank you for that interview. Let's move on now to P3, who was Mario Hargis. Argo. Okay, thank you very much. Mario, do you hear us?
Yep, I hear you.
Fantastic. So a podium position at the end of all of that, and a hard-fought one as well. Do you feel good about that?
Yeah, pretty good. First podium this season, so good feelings.
Well, congratulations. And from 8th on the grid as well, so you had to fight your way through. You passed your teammate, you passed the fighting Aston Martins. How did you do it? What was the strategy behind that?
Well, two things. I had a good start, and then the Artec Aston Martins, they pretty much gave me the podium.
How did they give you the podium? What went wrong for them?
They started fighting. They were actually a bit faster than me, but yeah, they started fighting. Then I caught up to them, and then I decided to pit because they were holding me back already. So I did an early pit, and undercut is quite a bit faster here in GT. So that worked out.
Indeed, it certainly seemed to be. Traffic was difficult today, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had a few situations where it got really dicey. So one situation with the radical, and it's tough.
Yeah, we saw that. Yeah, but anyway, you came out P3. As you say, it's your first podium of the series. Thank you for the interview, and as I say, good luck in your future races.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. So we've interviewed the top 3, and I'm afraid that's all we've got time for here today from the A-Finaal GT Sim Racing Championship, sponsored by NB Quality, of course. As you can see on your screen there, that's the calendar, and you can see the date there. The 5th of September will be the next round, the Indianapolis Road Speedway in the United States. Of course, they're not running the oval, as far as I know, although that would be a lot of fun. Instead, they're running the old-fashioned Grand Prix circuit, which is still used for IndyCar and various GT championships as well. So that's going to be an exciting one. Join us for that in just under a month. And from me, Caitlin Penny, and the streamer today, Argo Teder, it's good night.